Good afternoon. We're honored to have with us. Wow. I felt something in my spirit that just, let me take a moment here for a sec. Ooh, I felt the word winner. When I feel like a twitch in my spirit, Elizabeth, and it will happen sometimes, I'll take a step back. So
Oh,
please forgive me if you didn't understand what was happening, but I
it's
felt the
okay.
word I felt the word winner. And I'm honored to have this afternoon Elizabeth Shreve. How do you pronounce
Shreve.
Shreve? Shreve.
Shreve.
I owe it
Shreve.
Shreve, like Eve, but got it.
Shreve. Yeah.
So I'm really honored to have you with us. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I take it a great honor to be with you today.
Yeah, and we had your husband on several times, Mike. And how is the publishing company going?
Oh, the publishing company is wonderful. We've been publishing 40 years, and it started out in the strangest way. Uh, Mike did his first book 40 years ago, just a little bitty book that he and I set up and did together. And then we started doing books for him. But everywhere we would go, someone would say, "Oh, I want to do a book," or "I have this on my heart," or I don't even know where to start. So I guess Mike and I started talking about it, and we started doing books for our friends. Just not as a publishing house, but just to be a ministry. It was part of our ministry, and I guess we've done over 100 books for people, and it's not just a company to us. It is a part of our ministry. There's a lady in Mississippi, a real prophetess, and she comes up with all of these ideals. And just recently, I think this is the fourth book we're doing for her. She doesn't even have a computer. She
Wow.
handwrites it, but she sends it to us, and we take those handwritten notes, type them up, get them for her, and it's a beautiful arm of our ministry to help people get their book out, and not take advantage of them. We're partners with people. And to watch people open up those boxes with their
Wow.
book and cry and hold it up. It's a beautiful part of our ministry. And like I said, we've been doing it 40 years now.
So that's another thing when you believe it's one of the purposes that God placed in you and Mike?
Oh, yes, I do. I do. The ministry is supposed to be a help to people. And when you can find a way to help somebody, and us doing their book helps them, and it also helps the body of Christ, because uh, a man just recently did a book on his testimony of how he came through abuse growing up and come to the other side. And that book is going to thousands of people and helping them. So by us helping one person, that person helps 1,000 persons. And that's the beautiful part of ministry, isn't it? Just to be a blessing to others.
Hey, Elizabeth, for you and Mike to be able to help someone to take a thought,
Yeah.
and sometimes people have a challenge to take a thought and make it into a reality, to
Hmm.
be able to have that God given gift, that is absolutely ministry.
It is ministry. And it's a part of the ministry that I love. I
Yeah.
love it. Yeah, I love seeing somebody be able, because they feel like it's their purpose to write a book, but they don't know how. And we just facilitate that. Deeper Revelation Books was a God ideal. It
Wow.
wasn't just something we came up with. It was a God ideal. And we're honored that he would entrust us. Every gift God gives you is an entrusting. If you have a calling or a gift that you're good at, God looked at you, just like you do in this interview. God looked at you one day and said, "You would make a wonderful interviewer." And he entrusted you the gift of that. Is that not amazing that God in heaven would entrust us to be a part of his vast ministry? Because he could do everything on his own, could he not?
Yes.
Yeah, he uses us.
Mhm. Well, Elizabeth, I want to once again welcome you to the One Source. This will also air on 99.9 FM WUCC out of Willingston, South Carolina.
Mhm.
But I want to thank you. But do you have something in your hand that you could sort of show us? And yeah, lift it up just a little. Oh, perfect. What do you have and how and what is it about, Elizabeth?
A couple of years ago, happy as I could be, enjoying my life with my children, headed to a ballet recital. I ran in right quick to my gynecologist, and in a moment's time, my life was changed. He found something and rushed me to imaging, and before I knew it, I had was diagnosed with cancer. Didn't even know I wasn't even sick. I felt great, but it was there, and I can't explain the devastation of a diagnosis like that when you're not expecting something to happen. And I immediately ran to the bookstore to get resources. I'm a researcher, I gotta get some resources, and I whispered to the little girl because that word is such a feared word, cancer. When you say it, it hits your heart. And I whispered to her, and she took me in the back, and on the very bottom there was 5 books about it, and I bought all 5, and I came home, and I started reading them, and one was like, "Oh, that's horrible, and that's horrible, and that's horrible." And Mike came in, and he said, "Honey, what are you doing?" I said, "I was just trying to find s- some hope and some encouragement and something." And Mike got down on the floor with me and started reading them, and he packed them up immediately, and he said, "We're taking these back." And when he said that, I felt the Spirit of the Lord come on me and say, "You'll write a book about this, but that book will be about hope, and
Wow.
it'll be how you faced it and overcome, and how you're going to be truthful that it is a devastating blow. But by God's grace, you can come out with hope on the other side." And I'm on the other side. I am totally healed. I am whole. I am healthier than I've ever been. In my 60s, I feel better than I did in my 20s. And I wrote this book where I could give it to anybody that was not just had cancer, but was facing a life threatening diagnosis where the doctor looked at you. Because I looked at my doctor and I said, "Will I live?" And he said, "We'll just have to see.
Gee.
It's very serious." And he told me, he said, "I want," it was in October when I was diagnosed. He said, "Go on home, enjoy the holidays because it might be your last."
He spoke
And
those words?
well, he was a friend of ours. He knew us.
Oh,
And I guess he was as shocked as what I was. And he wanted to let me know to really enjoy. And when you go through something like that, it changes you anyway.
that's right.
Now I enjoy every day of my life, every moment, even when I'm in hardships. I think, at least I don't have cancer.
Yeah, you
At
do.
least I'm well. So I wrote the book to be a blessing to people who have went through hard places, and and every chapter it's called "I Cried a River: The Journey from Tears to Triumph." And every chapter is the heading is tears of joy, tears of depression, tears of discouragement, tears of hope, tears of health, tears of wholeness. So because we cry over situations, you can't help it. You're going to cry over situations, but God collects your tears in a little bottle,
Mm.
and he lets you know that no matter how much you cry, you can cry a river, but you can always come out to triumph because he made us more than conquerors. You know, We're triumphant, even in the midst of treatments. And I did 37 rounds of treatments. And but God used me in all of it. Everywhere I went, I would see the hand of God using me. You know, you started out saying you felt something, you had to take a pause and step back.
Well, yes.
Anytime I would go in, I would ask God, direct me to somebody. Let me be joy to somebody. Let me be hope to somebody. Let me give somebody just a moment of peace, because there's a lot of sick people in the world, and a lot of people who don't have the Lord and don't know what it feels like to be able to pause and let the Spirit of the Lord wash over you and give you joy and hope and peace and comfort. The Comforter is with us every day. It's a beautiful thing to know the Lord, is it not?
Oh, I must say, Elizabeth, the word that I received several moments ago, winner, just seeing your presence and how you hold your grace and how you said when you were sick, you wanted just to help encourage others.
Yeah,
That's a winner.
that's a winner. That's a winner. And you look at Jesus, no matter what he was going through, being chased out of a city, running, having to go find a place to find peace. He was always a winner. Even in Gethsemane, when he said, "Not my will, Lord, but yours be done." That was a winner. He came out of that as a winner, and exactly what he wants us to be. He don't want us to be discouraged. He don't want us to be depressed. He wants you to walk in triumph at all times, whether you're sick, whether you're having financial problems, whether you're going through a divorce. He is the triumphant Lord that will lead us into triumph no matter what. And that's the God I know. Isn't that the God you know?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a question related to your experience when you experience cancer. I like
Yeah.
using that word instead of I have something. God
Yeah.
told me to use the word experience. At this
Yeah.
moment in my life, I'm experiencing this illness. And when I say it that way, I almost feel empowered,
Yeah.
Elizabeth. I want to ask you, when you were going through your experience, how did it affect Mike?
Well, Mike and I have been together for 42 years. So, and the man couldn't make it without me. You know,
That's
let's
funny.
just,
I believe it.
yeah,
I
he
can
just could.
relate.
I am Mike's joy. Mike is so serious and so uh, deep into theology, and and I come along, and I was totally opposite of anything. Any, I people would always say, "I don't know how God put y'all together, but it works." Mike's
It
from a
worked.
very militant Navy family. I'm from backwater Alabama, redneck country. You know, I laugh at everything. Mike used to not be able to laugh at anything.
Wow.
And uh, but when I was diagnosed, Mike, for a moment there was a a pause, but then the faith of God came up in him, and no matter what I was facing, he'd say, "We're going to see it through, honey. It's going to be okay. We'll make it. You're not going to leave me. You're not going to leave the kids." He was just a pillar of strength. But there was moments. I remember going into surgery, and I looked at him and I could see not fear, but hesitation. And I said, "Are you scared?" And he said, "I am not scared." But I could see I had I had 3 surgeries to try to correct some situations. But like anybody who's been together forever, when your spouse come down with something, of course, there's so many emotions, so many, uh, so many things that goes through your mind. But the bottom line was he was always a pillar of strength to me. That's Mike.
Did you find yourself during that time sort of,
I lost your mic.
whoops, let's see. How about now, Elizabeth? Testing one, two, three.
Are you
Can you,
there?
yep, can you hear me? No?
I can't hear you.
Hmm.
Oh, I can
Every
hear you now.
Oh, you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, thank you, Elizabeth.
I don't,
what's good about our program? It
what?
it's real. We
It's
don't
real.
we don't care what happens during the broadcast. It's life.
It's live.
Hey, so Elizabeth, when things happen, that quote, we're supposed to be perfect and things have to go just right. But sometimes things don't go just right.
Oh, isn't that the
How do
truth?
you could you share with the audience why is it important to be flexible?
Well, because life is life. And every major character in the Bible went through hardships, did they not? And if you refuse to be flexible in the situations, then you lose out how God's going to use you. And uh, I'm reminded one day I walked into the treatment center and I wasn't in a good frame of mind. I wasn't being flexible. It was halfway through. I was probably about, I don't know, 17, 18 treatments in, and I really didn't want to be there. And I couldn't figure out why I was going through this. But just had a little bit of an attitude. I know that's hard for you to believe, but I had just a little bit of an attitude.
How
But when I
small?
walked,
How
just a little bit,
okay, got it.
just a little bit. But when I walked in, this lady named Joyce ran up to me and she said, "We've been waiting for you." And I just looked at her and she said, "You always bring something beautiful into the treatment area." And I was like, immediately I thought, okay, having a bad attitude and not being flexible in this situation cuts me off from God being able to use me. And his ways are not our ways and his thoughts are not our thoughts. And so we have to be flexible for him to move us into situations that maybe we don't want to go in, but he sees way ahead and he knows how he's going to open doors of opportunity if we're flexible, because God changes things on us sometimes when we don't want him to.
Yeah.
And so uh if you're really going to flow in your calling, you have to be flexible for what God. The wind blows where it wants, and you have to be ready to ride that wave of whatever God's going to do, and be flexible in God. I mean, that's being able to fulfill your passion and calling. Have you ever met anybody that wasn't flexible?
Ooh. Oh, well, there was a time when I was so strict in my athletic years and just wanted things to go this way, this way, this way. And I found out it doesn't work. Sooner or later, it implodes on itself.
Yeah, it does. It
Mhm.
does. And so, being flexible works. Sometimes my kids aren't very flexible, but they've had to learn. Sometimes Michael say, "We're going here," but then, 5 hours later he'll say, "Nope, that changed." And they would freak out. And I'd be like, you know what? Maybe this is a better thing for us. Flexibility opens doors. I know you said that you learned to say experience. I'm having an experience. Well, my word has always been, this is an adventure.
Ooh, I like that word too.
Cancer was an adventure. It was
Ooh,
it
that
was
is
something
good.
it was something I'd never been through, and it was gonna be an adventure, and I was gonna come out on the other side and have memories and learn lessons. Adventure gives you a place to look back over your shoulder and go, "Wow, that was an adventure." You
Ooh, Elizabeth, I don't know how often you share that, but that one word can shift a person immediately.
Oh, yes, it can. From I'm sick to I'm having an adventure. You know, I'm, uh, and I use that word a lot because life is meant to be an adventure. You know, uh, it's not meant to be boring. It's not meant to be depressing. Sure, there's bad things that happen to all of us, but it's all in how you look at it. It's all the attitude that you take things in. As soon as I was diagnosed, I could have sit down and just fell apart, and I had so many amazing things that happened during my treatments that God showed me how big he was and how he was with me on every adventure, God was right there with me, giving me comfort or giving me instructions, because when you open yourself up for the great adventure of walking with him, you'll never be sorry.
Yeah.
It'll always be amazing, because he's amazing.
Do you mind holding your book up again, please? There's a reason. Now, Elizabeth, knowing you have the book in front of you and you experienced and you had a great adventure, share with us, with that heart, the name of the book.
I cried a river from tears to triumph.
Now, hold it for a moment. You just said and you shared with us the title of the book. Now, if you go within yourself, you're holding it in front of you. The book is not behind you.
Yeah.
Now it's in front of you.
Yeah.
What does it mean to you, Elizabeth?
It means so much to know that I came out on the other side, not just with my health, but with the confidence that he was with me and he never left me nor forsook me, and that I was able to sit down and write each chapter and explain how good God is, how great he is, how magnificent he is. How when I hold the book, I'm reminded of picking up all those other books that that did not encourage me, that and I'm sure they wrote from a place where they were at. For me, I wrote from a place of hope, and because he is the God of hope. And so every time I see this book, or every time I reach across and hand this to someone, I pray as I hand it to them, God, awaken hope, awaken triumph in their life, awaken the ability to believe that you'll come through this storm and get to the other side and be able to dance in the rain.
Yes.
uh,
Wow. That's a good title for a book.
is it not, dancing in the rain? You're going to write a book? I know a publisher.
Well, I believe one's coming, but in God's timing. But
You gotta
maybe
stop.
this is to stop having you guys on. So we'll put it aside. But Elizabeth, right now, let's see. We spoke about before the broadcast, so many different challenges now are going on in the world. You
Wow,
know, looking at it, it's chaos.
such
So,
chaos.
with everything going on in the world, how important is it for us as Christians to focus on God's kingdom?
I'm reminded of the story where there was snakes everywhere, and God spoke to Moses and told him I may not get the whole story right, but there was a staff with a snake on it, and everyone that stared at Moses' staff was not afraid. Do you remember that story?
Hmm.
And I think that's where we're at now. There's so many vipers and such chaos in the world, but we have to keep our eyes on the Lord. We have to look up. Our help is up, and if we dwell on what everything that's going on around us in our countries, in other countries, there's a there's a spirit of discouragement that can come on you.
Yes.
But if you keep your eyes on the Lord, he'll lift you above all the chaos, because we know that we're going to come to the other side and be triumphant. It's just us getting there. And uh, I think sometimes I tell my daughter, turn the news off. She's
Right.
24 and she gets wrapped up in everything that's going on. And I'll say, you need to turn that news off,
That's right.
and don't let your focus be so into the chaos in the world. Turn that off, get the Bible out, and read how amazing he is and how he's going to get us to the other side. And one day he's going to split the eastern skies. I think we have to remember who we belong to.
That's right. And who we
We
are.
belong to the King of Kings and the
Yeah,
Lord of Lords, the one who's going to have the final say in whatever's going on. He's the final word.
that's right.
And I think that we have to do that or we'll stay discouraged and depressed all the time because the world is in chaos, but we're
Mm,
not.
that's
We're
ooh,
enclosed with the Spirit of God all around us. Wherever we can walk, things can't touch us because we're enclosed with the Spirit of God all around us. Chaos may be happening all around us, but we're have this covering. We're under the shadow of the Almighty. I love that scripture.
mhm, mhm.
And we're covered by him. His wings cover us. And so I don't focus on the negative, focus on the positive, focus on what he, if look, if he can look out into the void of darkness and say, let there be light, he can do that in the world we're living in.
That's
Or if
true.
he can pick up dust and breathe and create humanity, he can do the same kind of thing in the world that's going crazy. He can stop things right now. And
That's
it
right.
and all of this builds faith in us.
That's right.
It, my faith is high. I'm not
You,
full of discouragement. My faith is high. I'm expecting great things. I'm
you
not
know,
expecting the end. I'm expecting the beginning. Aren't you?
about 3 weeks ago, I woke up and in the spirit, I heard these words. I heard, live with expectation.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So, Elizabeth, right now, I feel in my spirit, I'm going to take a step aside and I don't have a question. But if there's someone out there who's feeling hopelessness, speak to their spirit.
Look, the world is full of hopelessness. But we know the God of hope. We know the God who created hope. We we just need to take a breath, take a pause, and let the Spirit of God flow through you and awaken in you faith to believe. Let me tell you a quick story. I
Please.
went in for a biopsy, and Mike was out preaching, and I had kids, and I just felt hopeless, sir. I mean, I did. It was in the very beginning of my treatments. I just felt like I was at the end of my rope. And when I walked in, I looked around, and all these sick people was there, and I was like, all these poor people. They just don't have any hope. But when I went in and got the biopsy, and then all of a sudden, was sitting across from an oncologist, and they were explaining to me how bad the situation was. And I felt overwhelming doom, hopeless. And I felt like alone, so alone. And in my mind, I kept saying, I'm alone. I'm alone in this battle. I'm alone. Oh, how will I face this? And when I stepped out to walk through the waiting room, there was all those sick people, and it dawned on me, I'm one of them. I'm I'm sick and I'm alone and I'm facing this. And I went and got an elevator on the third floor of the oncology unit, just so lost and so hopeless and so discouraged and and I looked over, and there was a little lady in the room in the elevator, and I just looked at her, and she was real short, and she had a little red wraparound skirt and a little white shirt with a shoestring, red shoestring, little red flats. And she stepped toward me, and I stepped away, and she stepped toward me, and then she came up, and she said, "You look like you need a hug." And I'm not
Wow.
a hugger. I'm not a hugger. But
Wow.
she reached up and put her arms around me, and I felt the peace of God. And this is what she said to me, not knowing what my mind was telling me. She reached up and whispered in my ears, "You are not alone, and this will be okay." And I was just like, whoa, whoa. How did she know that's what was going through my mind? And she got out, and it dawned on me, I need to thank her. And I went running out to the underground parking lot. She was not there.
Can I share something, Elizabeth?
Yeah, sure.
It reminded me of Hebrews 13:2. Be kind to strangers, and by doing so, you could entertain angels
Angels
unaware.
unaware. Look, I ran back up to the third floor and I said, there's a little lady. She's got a little gray Pentecostal bun. She's wearing a red skirt. And they said, no. I went down to the second floor. No. So I ran back out in the parking lot and I thought, well, she couldn't got far. She's old. And, and so I couldn't find her and I called Mike and he quoted that scripture to me. And he said, I believe you have entertained an angel. And
Look
I
at
said,
that.
angels visit you, honey. They visit prophets. They visit men of God. They don't visit little housewives and little mamas. And he said, angels visit whoever needs them.
That's wow. Because there's no way she would have known how
No
alone
way.
you felt.
No way.
But
And God always meets you where you need him to meet you. He's always there. And for people who are feeling hopeless or just take a moment and let the ministering angels come to you and step in an elevator and whisper in your ear, you are not alone and this will be okay. That changed the course of my destiny, just to know that the Lord was willing to send somebody my way. I'm always, when I go into Walmart or Walgreens or wherever I'm at, I'm always asking the Lord, let me speak into somebody's life. Just a kind word can change the course of people's destiny. And today I pray that if anybody who's listening is going through a hard place, that the words we are speaking will speak life into them and speak hope into them and speak joy into them. All the things. I want everyone to have an adventure with the creator, don't you?
yes,
A holy adventure with the God who created the world. And the beautiful thing is he's willing to go on that adventure with us. He's willing to walk with us in any place that we're at. You are not alone and this will be okay. That's what I have to say to people. You are not alone and this will be okay.
Elizabeth, in your testimony, and I'm glad my wife labeled it. Let me see if I could find it here for a moment. Again, we're not being perfect in this 1 second, so be with spared a moment with me if you would.
Sure.
Let's see if I could find it. Maybe it's on the other page. What I was thinking about, you were sharing your adventure. And all of a sudden, I started to think when I was going through my depression years back when I lost my gyms, my health clubs, just my new home, just hitting with that place of rock bottom. But now, over the years, God, we're here.
Yeah.
My life is completely different.
Yeah.
But when you go through those things and God guides us, when we surrender to His will and we reach that other side, Elizabeth, doesn't even drinking a cup of coffee, isn't it more joyful than the time you just took it for granted?
Oh, everything is more joyful. Everything. It changes the way you are. When you face things, it
Yes,
changes
it
you.
does.
And it causes you to have more faith. It causes you to have more joy. Things that 15 years ago would have sent me off on a tangent. Now I just look and say, whatever, you know,
Yeah.
because I see the beauty when you face something like that and you realize all the time that you've wasted over the stupidest things and all the times that you wasted being mad over something or hurt over something or just wasting valuable moments that God has given you. And after you go through that, where you think you only have this much time to live, you don't want to waste anything. I don't want to waste a day of my life being mad or hurt or depressed or angry.
Yes.
Every day when I pray, I'm like, God, I want to be joyful today. I want to have hope today. I want to experience everything you have to give me today. I don't have a moment to be depressed. I don't have a moment to lose. I used to, you hear that comment. when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. I'm
Yes.
like, I don't want to stop at the lemonade. I'm gonna take the lemon peels and make lemon ice cream. I'm going to use every bit of that lemon. I'm going to make sure that when I get to the end of my life, I can look over my shoulder and say, I lived. Mm, I
Wow.
I did it. I experienced it. I had an adventure. I lived. You ever been with someone when and it's the saddest thing. They're laying there on their deathbed and all they can say is I wish I had done this or I wish I had done that or I wish I had not me. When I'm laying on my deathbed, I'm gonna say, I did it. I
Yes.
enjoyed every minute. I whatever gift God gave me, I opened it and I used it. I don't want to have to get at the end of my life and apologize to God for not using the things He's given me.
So you're not going to bury your talents.
Never,
And
never.
what happens when we do bury the talents, Elizabeth?
Isn't that sad?
Yes.
That, that God would give you something, and it may be not the gift that you wanted, but if God gave it to you, I know that it can be something of great value. You know, I love my children. And I always wanted to minister and preach and go overseas, but then I had these children, and those children became my ministry. They became my joy, and it was my gift that God gave me. And now they're 34 and 24, and we sit around and laugh because that was the gift that I had at that moment. And I made sure I used every bit of the gift of being a mother. Motherhood was fantastic for me. Was it hard? Of course. But why bury a gift that God's given you? If I give you a gift and you just say thank you and laid it down on the table and you didn't open it, that would hurt. And I would never want to hurt God by not opening and using a gift that He's given me. Would you?
No. Knowing, just having the awareness now that, God places his purpose in us,
Hmm.
and the one who is responsible to uncover and to move in faith, to bring that purpose in this physical world, it's me.
Yeah.
Can't blame anyone. I something when I was doing my spiritual notes this morning, Elizabeth, I came across something that was to me was very powerful. Because a man building a empire cannot take counsel from those still building excuses.
Oh, wow. That's powerful.
Oh, when I heard that, it touched me so
That's
much.
powerful.
You,
Oh, I'm gonna use that.
you want me to read it one more time?
I'll read it one more time. That's
Okay.
powerful.
Because a man building a empire cannot take counsel from those still building excuses. What did it do to you when you heard it?
Oh man. I mean, that cut right into my spirit.
It
Did it?
did to
I
me.
mean, like, whoa. You don't listen to someone who's making excuses. Oh, that is a powerful statement because I've heard people make excuses. They would have done this had they, had this work, had this work. Uh, that's just beautiful. Where'd you find that at?
Well, God's been doing a lot lately. And right now, my wife and I, Rebecca, we're really bringing forward a plan that He put in our heart, but it affects different areas of our ministry, and it's getting so expansive. And suddenly this morning that popped up.
Hmm.
And God knew that I like encouragement, and I like sometimes, a lot of times, to listen to scripture plus positive quotes.
Yeah.
So I just love it. But I'm learning, Elizabeth, when we are walking in His will, the ways He shows up are incredible.
Yes, they are. You can't help but smile when you think about the things that He's done for us, the things that He's going to do for us. You know, uh, I always say, because Mike's such a visionary and I'm more practical, I always say Mike's dreams becomes my nightmares.
Oh, why? Why, Elizabeth?
All because he comes in with, I think God's told us to do this. And as soon as he says that, I'm the powerhouse. I try to figure out, okay, so how can we get this done? How can we do this? And he's such a man of faith. And so he dreams these things. And then I'm like, oh, the nightmare of trying to figure out how to accomplish it with the help of God. We needed a building one time. And so I tried to rent and I tried to find a building, and because we had our office in our house. We had people coming in and out. We had small children. And so I found this building and I called Mike, and when I pulled up, I knew this was our building. I knew 6,000 square feet. I knew it was our building. And so I called him and I said, I found a building. It's for sale. He said, oh, we're just going to rent. But then he came over and looked at it. And he said, I think this is our building. And I said, oh, okay. Well, I just let it go. But then the next morning he said, you need to get up. And I said, why? He said, we're driving to Dunlap. And I said, why? He said, well, we're going to meet these people about this building. I said, Mike, we don't have no money. we,
Yeah.
we don't. Have you seen our banking account? I do our finances. We don't have no money to buy 6,000 square feet building. We don't. He said, well, I'm going to go up there and talk to him. So we go up, we sit down. They said, we've already got somebody signed up. Mike said, that building's ours. We're going to house our ministry in that building. And the man said, well, I mean, can you, he told us how much it was going to be. And as soon as he said how much it was going to be, I looked at Mike like, what are you doing? And the man said, if you can come up with a down payment by Friday, we'll work it out deal. And we had $8.71 in our account.
Look at that. That is
nightmare, brother. Mike said, reached across, shook the man's hand. When we got out the car, I was like, what are you doing? He said, you said that that was the building God was giving us. And I said, I know I said that, but I didn't. I thought we would working this out. And did you know that in a week we came up with a down payment and we moved in that building less than a month later? Because that's the way God is. When you can dream big, God answers big.
He does.
When you can allow your mind to expand and believe what God can do, you can move into a 6,000 square foot building with $8.71 in your banking account.
Hey, did you write a book about that yet?
No, I shouldn't I?
Yes, you should.
I should call it Mike's Dreams is My Nightmares.
Oh, that's a good title. Elizabeth, write it down. That's a great title.
From nightmare, from dream to nightmare or something. But we still have that building.
Look at that.
25 years, and it's paid for. That building belongs to us. God did that. God did that.
Elizabeth, there's sometimes people you meet, they'll share something, and in our adventure of them, I should say, you sense a little ego, maybe a little pride. But when you share your story, there's humility.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, and that's so much needed in the body of Christ in my life, to be humble, because then people can relate to you.
Oh, thank you.
Why is it important to be humble, Elizabeth? We have about 10 minutes left, if you don't mind.
Well, pride is one of the 7 things that God hates. And I think when you're humble, God can use you more. When you're so puffed up with your own pride and your own glory and your own thoughts, then you don't need God. But every day of my life, I need God. Every second of my life, I need God. And if I can humble myself before him, I know that he'll use me. And I know that I am nothing without him. I'm just a backyard redneck country girl that God had the grace enough to touch and allow me the privilege. Walking with the Lord is a privilege, is it not?
Mhm.
To know that the great God of the universe looked down from heaven and chose me to love and chose me to be his friend and chose me to be his servant. And that's the most beautiful thing. And, I don't want to be around people who are prideful or egotistical, or
Right.
I don't want to be around that spirit. I want to be around people who know the goodness of the Lord. David said, I would have fainted had I not believed to see the goodness of the Lord. It's all about him anyway. I live and breathe just for his glory. I live and breathe just to walk beside the Lord and to honor him in my life and in my and honor him in my truth. The truth is I would be nothing without him. I, w- I would be nothing without the Lord. I
Mhm.
would be I would be of all creatures so bad, but he's chosen us. He's chosen you to love and to give you the gift of this television program, this interview program. And I think once we lose that humility, God don't want that anymore. He all glory belongs to him. And I hope that I'm always humble and always I know that I'm nothing. And he's everything.
Yes. Yes. Well, Elizabeth, this
Now he doesn't make me cry.
who made you cry, Elizabeth?
You did.
No, don't blame me now. It was well, that's a good thing.
Yeah, it is. Tears are good.
That's
Tears
a
are good.
oh, there you are you enjoying yourself?
Oh, I am.
Are you really?
Oh, yeah.
You are you just being who you are?
Oh, I'm going to be Elizabeth no matter what. I'm just going to be. I'm just down to earth. Just I am who I am.
Wow.
Can't be
I
nobody
am.
else. What a waste if I was somebody else.
Wow.
Anyway, God likes me the way I am. He created me.
Well, Elizabeth, this was really I enjoyed this
Oh, good.
adventure. I may take the word adventure too. I'm going to use that.
Adventure is
Yeah.
a great adventure.
Yeah. Well, that's a good one. Any last words? And could you share briefly your website? But any last words?
Sure. Well, I guess my last word would be hope. Have hope. Hope that, hope is having only positive expectations. HOPE. Hope. Having only positive expectations. And that would be my word for anybody listening. The God of hope be bless you and keep you. And our website is shreveministries.org or elizabethshreve.org, and follow our social media sites. We're on them all. We're on Threads, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Uh, Elizabeth Shreve, Mike Shreve. Uh, we we put all kinds of wonderful things, whatever God's speaking to us, we put on social media almost every day. And follow our website. Mike and I are on the road. We'll be leaving for we'll be in South Carolina in 2 weeks
Oh, that's good. Very
in Charilaou.
okay. We live in Rhode Island, but we work with people in South Carolina.
Yeah, I heard South Carolina. So I'll be in Baltimore, and well, Rhode Island's far away from Maryland. So, but if they go on our website, they can see our itinerary and show up and visit with us.
Well, maybe we'll arrange to have something up here so you and Mike could give a talk.
Oh, I'd love that.
Or
That
the
would be amazing.
yeah, we're between, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut.
No, that'd
So,
be great.
yep, so we'll see what God does. I got
Oh,
another one for Hope, Elizabeth.
okay.
Help open people's eyes.
I love that. Oh man, I'll write that one down too. Oh, I'm going to steal that one.
Okay. Well, it was a pleasure, Elizabeth. We
Thank you
really
for
enjoyed it.
having me. I appreciate it.
Yep, and we would love to have you back.
I'd love to come back.
Okay. And thank you.
Thank you.